Happy New Year and welcome to Talent Talks. I'm JC, I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition and More Staffing.
And I am Harvey. I'm the internal coach of More Staffing. And of course, before we dive in, we have some exciting news to share. The Talent Talks team is
Yes,
expanding.
this year you'll get to hear from not just Lara and AC, but also from us, JC and Harvey, as your co hosts. By the way, I'm JC, and let me tell you a bit about myself. As a Director of Talent Acquisition, I connect amazing business owners with the incredible Filipino talent pool. Outside of work, I love traveling with my family. Fun fact, I used to be a flight attendant before transitioning to virtual work. And that's actually where I met Lara. My why is simple. I truly believe Filipinos are some of the most talented and valuable assets in the global workforce. Today, I get to help businesses unlock that potential by matching them with the perfect Filipino virtual professionals.
Right. And on my end, I am Coach Harvey, your internal coach here at More Staffing. I also teach on the side. I teach college students about anything psychology and anything about the personal development. On one hand, as well, after the day, a fun fact about me, I also tend and manage and co own a queer bar here in our place. So, what a way to share safe spaces here in the Philippines. And I think that's really because also my why, same with JC. It's to provide a really good experience to other people. Same with more staffing. So honestly, I believe we're all in a lifelong journey of learning and development, along with those really exquisite experiences. And it's most rewarding when we approach it with intentionality and a little bit of fun. So, this is our first episode of Talent Talks for the year, and we're joining with Lara and AC as co-hosts. And today's focus is a fun and informative Q&A session. So, our topic for today is going to be a little bit more on hiring and coaching, since that's our expertise with JC, right? I listened to your a little bit background about yourself. You mentioned that you were a flight attendant, which is amazing. So from flight attendant to finance coach and to talent acquisition, that's really quite a very vast and crucial journey, perhaps. So I'm very interested and so invested. How does this all connect? How does these experiences, your previous experiences in traveling and the world and studying finance, influence your current work as director of talent acquisition?
It's hard to believe, but working with people is the same regardless of being in the customer service, and being the flight attendant to coaching my clients to finding the right talent for our clients in more staffing. Basically, since I work as a flight attendant, I treat my passengers as my babies. And until now, with more staffing, I treat our clients as my babies, as a mom of three, making sure that the connection that we build with our clients are not just transactional, even with our hires. That's why we have coaching as well. We wanted to establish this connection with our clients and our hires to establish a long-term commitment, making hiring more efficient and not giving our clients disposable talents to their company, but actually someone who can grow with them, with the company. I hope I answered your question.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much, JC. Now, it made me curious with what you said. What are some of the biggest challenges business owners face when hiring virtual talents from the Philippines?
Okay, most of the challenges is that most of the time the clients don't really know what they need. Sometimes we work with them as much as possible on finalizing the job description. We try to know their pain points so that we can offer our guidance to have an effective job description for them. But sometimes it doesn't work out because the client will then realize that it's not what they need at the moment. So sometimes there are replacements because they need to change the job description as well. So I think that's one of the most common challenges that we face in hiring remotely, because there are also big companies who have started hiring remotely, because this is not like the global workspace is not only for e-commerce, startups, and the likes. but actually we've built clients who have, long established companies in the US and Europe companies, but they have been transitioning and making use of this opportunity to find global workforce remotely. So I think with an effective onboarding and making sure that they capture the right requirements for the role could, bridge the gap of this challenge.
All right. I think it's a very like not really common, but I think there is a pattern when it comes to business owners. And I love when you pointed out that sometimes they go to you thinking that probably they know what they need, but sometimes there could be like a mismatch to what they need, and you're there hand holding, helping them understand what they really need and how, more staffing could help them in that particular scenario. Thank you, JC. And I think one last question, if you don't mind. How can businesses ensure a smooth onboarding experience for their new remote hires? Personally, I wanted to see how is it for them, the employee side, the
Mhm.
smooth onboarding experience. How can businesses ensure a smooth onboarding experience?
Well, a great onboarding is actually setting your hire to success while we promise to deliver candidates who are equipped and expert in their role, someone who can join the company, just learn more about the company and be able to work independently without a hand holding. Yes, even if the most talented person that we deploy, they still need a proper onboarding, regardless of how expert their hire is. They have their own processes in place. They have their own, challenges within the company that this new hire needs to be aware of. So I invite, clients who will be hiring remotely to have at least dedicate a time to properly immerse their remote hires to the company before they let them work independently, because maybe it's sad to see clients let go of great talents just because they don't have time to properly onboard this person. In order to be effective, I think it's a investment, a 1 week investment to have this person be immersed in the company before letting them work independently. I think it's unfair also for the potential hire or the candidates that's been hired to just expect them to know what they will be doing, especially, the challenges of remote work. They really need someone to walk them through on how the company works before they can share their expertise and be of value to the company.
I love that. Thank you, JC. To summarize what you shared, it's a 1 week investment that would change the whole pace of the game, right? So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it only goes to show how important, I mean, hiring as its own essence is important, but there is really like an art
Yeah.
and science to it that people needs to know.
Definitely, definitely. And it's a two-way,
All right. See,
street
let's
to make it more efficient and successful.
All right. So there's like a collaborative approach.
Well, can I ask your question? Now with the coaching. Now we're done with, hiring questions. Now with the coaching. I'm very curious. And this is actually one, I know coaching is one of the value proposition of more staffing, but this is one of the most questioned service that we provide by the clients. Like, what is coaching? What does a coaching program look like for a virtual team?
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, JC, for asking. So the way we define coaching here at More Staffing, you don't think of a a one or a linear process, like a one-way street, like the coach to the talent. It's not really. We're trying to revolutionize coaching into more of like a conversation wherein everybody gets to have the piece of cake in the table or from the table, and also get to place their own stories and narratives through some series of questions and activities wherein everybody gets to see. it's more like a dialogue kind of thing, the way we are trying to revolutionize coaching. But coaching, in essence, is really more on personal and professional development in a way that it's more guided, not commanded or not demanded, more guided by someone who is one page ahead, and it's usually the coach. And everybody gets to contribute in the session while someone is facilitating, so that everybody gets to share their piece of story. I think the unique part there is we're not talking about technicalities. We're not talking about work per se, right? Because there is a misconception. There is a notion that when once you're coach, something is wrong with you, right? There's always like that misconception about it. But here at More Staffing, coaching is more of like a benefit. Right? Coaching is more like a way of living. And that's how we would want to brand people. Every time I get to talk about coaching, I always give disclaimer to them na, hey, you're not in trouble because getting up there or improving yourself out there is not being in trouble. So that's how we would want to define coaching. And the coaching program right now is really, very explorative in terms of topics under goal setting, under mindset building. It's also more on capacity building for well-being. Also some best practices as remote teams. So anything under the stars under these areas, we bring that up. And the most beautiful moments during coaching is when people get to contribute during the topic. So there's no material. Well, sometimes there is a material presented just to have a guide, but usually there's no material because the material itself is the story of the talents, because you get to learn from one another. So that's more staffing or more coaching here at More Staff.
Thank you, Harvey, for hearing that. So, in that sense, how do you think coaching help our remote teams stay motivated and engaged?
Well, that has been like a really good point to that has been a really good point to raise here in for coaching in general. Coaching, as the way we define it a while ago, is not some sort of like a formal thing, like super hardcore one-way street hierarchical thing that we do to our talents. We want to make it more conversational, and the reason why it's because we want people to feel that there is space for them after work or just 1 hour after working for 40 hours a week. There is a space for them to just talk about anything, right? But they don't get to realize that they are learning from it. So that kind of spacing, that kind of framing about coaching is a really good or a strong suit in terms of making that session engaging and letting them also feel that, hey, this is actually a fun session. I might go back in the next session. And truth be told, we have a lot of talents who come back for the coaching sessions because they really find it to be nourished or enriching in their number one, in their experiences, and number two, with the wisdom that they're trying to accumulate while working as well, right? So coaching really helps remote groups or remote teams stay connected. And through that connection, I think JC, you were also able to mention that a while ago with your work as a flight attendant. There is that some sort of connection rather than just being transactional. Because real connections and the connections that we build here in our coaching sessions make it feel like, oh, even here at work, I have friends, even outside of their client or the company. And they get to say hi, hello, happy new year. How are you? Oh my God, I get to see you again and all that. So I think that's what makes, the coaching sessions here at More to be very motivating and engaging. And if there's one thing that we can learn from that is to really stay connected and true with other people. So that's how I'd like to take the question.
Yes, I'd also like to add, like as a virtual worker before starting more staffing, it's great to have these calls, like sometimes you get so absorbed with the day to day, all transactional without work, especially if your clients or Europeans or Americans, like it's just work, work, work. And sometimes it's very rare for clients to provide feedback, and it's hard to navigate if you're doing something right or doing something wrong. So with coaching, I think it's very helpful for our hires to connect with other remote people as well so that they can share their experiences, share best practices, and share challenges. So they can have like, a group where they think where can they feel that they belong somehow and they are not alone in working in their comforts of their home. So another question, Harvey. Last one before I let you go. So how do you think coaching support high performance in the team?
All right. Okay. How coaching really supports high performer is really on building a culture, because the belief here with coaching is that culture beats strategy all the time. And I love that. I love that phrase so much that I wanted that to splash out in our coaching session. In our coaching sessions, at face value, you don't want to sound like you're just teaching strategies and all, because strategies are at some point a little bit technical. And once people face something about technicalities or too much technical for their mind to process right away, they tend to not appreciate the session because it gets so technical. So the way coaching, builds from the ground up in terms of high performance is to focus on culture. How do we build culture within coaching? We focus on their life experiences. We focus on the narrative. We focus on life experiences because it's more relatable. It's more, compassionate framed. And people like that. People get to resonate that. People would want to unmute their mics. Coach, I want to share something because that struck me the most. And that alone, they didn't get to realize that the weaving of their stories actually make them feel so powerful and also vulnerable at the same time. But we bang on vulnerability as an ability rather than something so negative. So that kind of framing, that kind of mindset building that we're trying to cultivate to them adds up to what we call high performers, because high performers know how to share stories, know how to generally build from the ground up instead of just receiving something so technical and strategic, because culture always beats strategy. So I think that's how I would want to end my answer.
Yes. No, but thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And I truly believe, like sometimes, like personally, my most efficient thoughts comes when I'm in a group or I'm talking to someone. Yeah. So instead of like me and Lara would often have calls wherein, just to dump ideas and be able to like it's something that I would never think when I'm alone. So I think it's one of the benefits of coaching also to have like-minded people to share opinion, learn from each other, and be basically a community in order to be successful in their fields. With that, Harvey, what can you say before we end this podcast? What can you say is how do you think the expertise and in hiring and coaching complement each other in creating successful global teams?
All right, that's a good way to fuse what we talked about, JC. So I'll answer that first. I might return the question in a while, but I'll answer first. Ultimately, hiring and coaching complement with one another because and simply because we're trying to cultivate people from within, right? We want to hire people because we saw potential. We see a potential in them. We want to use their talents, right? But at the same time, we're not stopping there. We don't just take them at face value, but instead, we would also want to provide an opportunity for them to improve on. So to summarize everything, our fields, expertise or what we love is really more on dealing with people and hoping that we get to have a glimpse of their lives that they can share and also return something as experiences and opportunities for them to improve. So that's how I would want to take that. How about you, JC? How do you think? How do you think hiring and coaching complement with one
Like,
another?
expertise in both can really support your team, setting up the success of your team, especially remote work. There are a lot of challenges in the remote setup. And what we want to bridge here is not only to provide opportunities for both the clients and candidates from the Philippines, maximize this working beyond your location, but being able to be of value, of course, to a company that is, I think, one of the main things when we started more staffing with Lara is that we were both overseas Filipino workers before more staffing. There's a lot of overseas Filipino workers in the Philippines trying to find opportunities abroad. And we are happy, and our vision is actually to let them experience this opportunity of working for an international company in the comforts of their home, not leaving their family, being able to enjoy work life balance that is within their reach, while are helping our clients to maximize on the talents from the Philippines by hiring through more staffing and being able to nurture their team through our coaching. I think it's really important that with our coaching, we bridge this gap of turnovers in hiring, career growth of hires, and ultimately savings for the clients, because retention rate can really help for companies. So ultimately, I think the expertise in hiring and coaching can really complement the success of our clients' global team and building high performing team members in support to their growing company.
All right. Thank you so much, Casey. It only goes to show how integral and very crucial hiring and coaching is for companies, even for small organizations, right? So if there's one thing that we would want to, to share to the world, it's really that best practices in hiring and coaching works so that we can, deliver, really good outputs and hopefully let talents stay longer because they like what they're doing, right? Because of the whole process. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for the questions, Stacey. Thank you also for the answers as well. And to everyone who's watching, thank you so much for joining us for this special episode. We're excited to bring you more insights, stories, and even practical and best practices and tips about building successful global teams throughout 2025.
So to tap exceptional and trusted Filipino virtual talent, visit www.morestaffing.co. More Staffing provides expert support from hiring to onboarding to coaching.
Right? This has been Harvey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.